Hello and welcome back to the channel. If you're wondering, I've taken a few cough lozenges so my voice might sound a bit different. Anyways, I guess you know what time it is? Yes, it's that time of day again. Harald O'Clock. In this video we'll be looking at how Harald is using his charity fund for sex. Harald says publicly that his patron money is used to support entrepreneurs. But in his Florence video he gave it to Martina, a young female tourist guide. He called her an entrepreneur. Before that he gave his YouTube plug to a homeless guy living in a tent. He also called this man an entrepreneur. Well, I don't know about you guys, but these seem to be very liberal uses of the term entrepreneur. At this point Harald is calling basically anyone and everyone an entrepreneur. You're an Indian barber operating out of a shed, you say? No, you're not. You're an entrepreneur. You're a girl showing people the museums and city of Florence, you say? No, you're not. You're an entrepreneur. You're a homeless Italian man living in a tent in a park and shitting in bushes, you say? No, you're not. Harald says you're an entrepreneur. When was the last time you heard a homeless man living in a tent in a park and shitting in woods labeled as an entrepreneur? Some people would say this is extremely patronizing. It reminds me of George Carlin's skit on soft language.
These poor people have been bullshitted by the system into believing that if you change the name of the condition, somehow you'll change the condition. Well, hey, cousin, doesn't happen. Doesn't happen.
Harald says he hates political correctness, but he goes around calling a homeless man an entrepreneur. Why is he using this strange euphemism, instead of simply referring to things by their actual names? Isn't this what leftists do? The same leftists he disparages so much in his videos. Oh, the irony. Anyway, let's go to Harald's video titled Giving $1,100 to an Italian tourist guide. In the video, if you notice, when he hands her the money at the end, you can see the girl is very touched. She's literally on the point of tears. Harald himself says she was so emotional he had to stop filming in order to convince her off camera to take the money. This must have been a major episode then, because we know Harald never ever stops filming. He doesn't ever edit anything out these days. He and his friend Bold and Bankrupt live by the motto, never stop recording and always keep rolling tape. I mean, Bold literally filmed a guy taking a shit, for Christ's sakes. So what would it take for them to edit something out? Just imagine the hysterics this girl was in for Harald to break his cardinal rule. Now this girl has just accepted what to her is a huge cash gift from a man she barely knows. There is absolutely no doubt that she would feel in his debt. She would feel like she owes him big time. That she owes him a favor. A $1,100 favor, to be exact. It would be very easy for someone in Harald's position to then exploit this situation and maneuver her into bed. Even if you have the personality of an inebriated fruit fly and the charisma of a plastic paper clip. But our Harald would never do such a thing, right? We should not impugn his good name with our base thinking, I hear you say. Well, this is a reminder that he and Bold and Bankrupt have extensive histories of discussing techniques to bed girls in the Roosh V Pickup Artist Forum. Bold has shown he is a master of the dark arts, and has a history of conniving and manipulating others. He has discussed pretending to be men's friends in poor Russian villages solely to gain sexual access to their girls. See my video on Bold and Bankrupt and his Oscar Schindler manipulation tactic. Bold also rented cars and relayed how he hid the rental key rings from girls, in order to deceive them into thinking that he owned those cars when trying to seduce them. Deception and theatricality are powerful agents to the uninitiated, as Batman's Bane would say. But would Harald himself do such a thing? Maybe he's not as manipulative as his friend Mr. Bald. Well, suspicions arise when we see the fact that Harald tried to hide all evidence of their rumored sexual encounter by deleting a recent video. What possible reason would Harald have to delete a video on the merits of a $90 Airbnb room versus a $90 hotel room in Florence? One convincing fan theory has been floated. Some eagle-eyed redditors noted in the Harald Baldr subreddit that there were 2 Coke Zero bottles on either side of the bed in this video. If you remember, in a video shot earlier that day, Harald and Martina were both shown drinking from Coke Zero bottles. It certainly is a good case that they at least slept overnight together in the same bed after the video was done. And Harold's actions in trying to cover it up by deleting the video evidence is telling as well. Of course it's not a smoking gun, but you have to admit his actions certainly seem suspicious. Analysis. Hardwired into our mental DNA is the need to reciprocate. When we receive a gift, the regions of the brain associated with emotion and decision making light up. Studies on the social and psychological aspects of this activity show that receiving a gift triggers a cognitive dilemma that must be resolved. The easiest way to resolve the conflict is to give something in return of equal or greater value. In psychology, this is known as the theory of social reciprocity. There was an experiment published in 1971 by Dennis Reagan. The results of the study showed the power of giving. In the experiment, a guy called Joe bought sodas for some people and not others, and that ended up influencing how many raffle tickets they would buy from him. What was especially strange was it didn't matter if they liked him or not. In the experiment, the tester made sure some people disliked Joe by having him speak rudely over the phone. The result was that in cases where Joe did not buy people a Coke, they bought tickets based on whether they liked him or not. But when he did buy them a Coke, this became irrelevant. Even the people who said they disliked him ended up buying twice as many tickets from him as the first group. And they bought many more raffle tickets than the cost of the soda. So as humans, we have this natural tendency to pay people back that have done us a favor by doing them a bigger favor. And so by giving someone $1,100 that they don't feel they deserve, it sets up a pretty big feeling of social debt. That person will most likely try to pay you back in some way, shape or form very soon. It's speculated that Harold manipulated this and misappropriated use of his so-called charity funds to get in the pants of the tourist guide in Italy. He has demonstrated how he exploits his understanding of human psychology to enrich himself in his recent video. In the video titled "How to Get Millions of Views," he mentions how familiarity is enough for people to think they like you. In other words, the simple fact of being exposed to someone for enough time will trick our brains into thinking we like them. So Harold would likely know that regardless of whether a person likes you or not, if you set them up with a gift, they will be much more amenable to your demands or requests. Anyway, even if we give him the benefit of the doubt and say that he did it all without any thought or premeditation, don't you think having sex with a so-called charity recipient right after you give her a large sum of your donor's money seems like an abuse of charity funds? Then again, perhaps in Harold's definition, a hooker is the epitome of an entrepreneur, since they take risks, work for themselves and run a private business. Harold approves. Anyways, what do you think? Is what Harold did pretty sketchy? Is what he does a misuse of charity funds? Or is all fair in love and banging Italian tourist guides? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And thanks to all the new subscribers, including Zaida Erefin and Zachary Gordon. We also got some interesting comments in my previous videos. Kamlesh UG says, Harold doesn't seem as manipulative as Baldr or as depraved as Tim, but I did wonder why he was so defensive in his patron donation videos. Steve H says, I knew something was wrong with Harold. He's mentally screwed. On the other hand, Mirthful Merchant counters with a comment that says, Harold has a good heart. You misunderstood him. ChapXDE got the most likes for his comment, which says, I'm not gonna lie, since I saw Tim in Harold's vlogs, he always gave me this weird predator vibe. Finally, Lizzie makes a great point. I'm never gonna look at the travel genre the same.